Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, prophecy against Babylon. And this is basically a future prophecy concerning Babylon the Great. Now, though, some may mistaken it to that when you look at these commentaries, right, or some of these scholars, they try to attribute it to ancient Babylon. But when you look at how ancient Babylon transitioned into the Achaemenid Empire, right, or the reign of the Persians, it wasn't in the way that this was described, right? But rather, this was a prophecy about the mystery Babylon, Babylon the Great, that the Apostle John saw in his vision, okay, which is America today. Now, as we read this chapter, you'll also notice that there are some, parallels between what the Lord says about Babylon here and what he mentioned in his judgment against Esau, Edom in the previous chapter, right, which shows you that it's talking about the same judgment, right, the one that was pronounced against Esau and what is pronounced here against Babylon. So this is Jeremiah 50:1. The word that the Lord Yahweh spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare ye among the nations, and publish, and set up a standard, publish and conceal not. Okay, so basically, make it public, right? Let everybody hear, let everybody see, set up signals so everybody can hear what it is that the Lord is determined against Babylon. Say Babylon is taken, right, or Babylon will fall. Bel is confounded, Bel being one of the gods of the Babylonians. Merodach is broken in pieces, right? Merodach also being one of the chief deities of the Chaldeans or the Babylonians. Her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces, right? So they're at the destruction the Lord would bring, none of their idols will be able to save them, right? And that's going to be a part of them being confounded and realizing that they were just wood and stone and nothing more. For out of the north there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate. Now, the out of the north is referring to Russia, right, and all the armies that are going to be with them, as it's mentioned in Ezekiel the 38th chapter. Okay, because when you look at the history, the ancient Babylon was not made desolate. Okay, as it says, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. So how is this going to happen? This is going to happen by way of this Third World War that America or Babylon the Great will be involved in. So will Russia, and so will NATO, the EU, and all these other world nations. Hence a world war. Okay, and within that, the Lord is going to use these nations to shoot their missiles and weapons against this place in the midst of the war, which will in turn make this land desolate, like literally, with fire. And none shall dwell therein, right? Because after this destruction, there will be nothing left here. They shall depart, both man and beast. So there'll be, not animals, no cattle, right? No man, no none of that. But obviously, years and years and years down the line, after the fire burns out, the scriptures tell you that eventually you'll have this place be a desert with only desert creatures really roaming around here. In those days and in that time, saith the Lord Yahweh, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together. Right? And that's also another indicator, because at the time of the Babylonian Empire, led by Nebuchadnezzar, right, that one, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, Judah and Israel were not together, right? The nation was split. In fact, Israel wasn't, they were the bulk of them had come to the Americas, right? So this couldn't possibly have been fulfilled at that time, but rather it's happening now in our time, where you have Israelites of the northern kingdom and those of the southern kingdom joining together, as it says, going and weeping right, being sorrowful in repentance, they shall go and seek the Lord Yahweh their God. And it mentions that also. A quick precept on that. But we're doing that. We're doing that now as the Lord has turned to us, a new heart or a new mind, and bringing it to our remembrance to seek after Him. Now, this is the book of Baruch, chapter 2, verse 30. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves, and shall know that I am the Lord their God. For I will give them an heart and ears to hear, and they shall praise me in the land of their captivity, and think upon my name, and return from their stiff neck, and from and from their wicked deeds. For they shall remember the way of their fathers which sinned before the Lord. And I will bring them again into the land which I promised with an oath unto their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And they shall be lords of it, and I will increase them, and they shall not be diminished. So isn't America one of the lands of our captivity, of our ultimate captivity? So it's here. Going back to Jeremiah 50, it's here, right, that both Judah and Israel are seeking Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai in repentance. And that's the remnant. They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, right? And this represents basically repenting and seeking the old paths, right? The ways back to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, the ways of salvation. And this is why it's needful and important for us to teach, so that when they ask, they can find the way back. Saying, come and let us join ourselves to the Lord Yahweh in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. Okay, and this is what this looks like, is hearing the word, taking heed, forsaking the wicked ways of this world, detaching yourself from this place mentally and spiritually, and going after Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai wholeheartedly, right, to worship and to serve the Lord, and to seek, after the ways that are pleasing to the Lord. My people have been lost sheep; their shepherds have caused them to go astray. Right. So here the Lord likens us to sheep that are actually like lost, that are scattered. And the shepherds, which are those, the rulers and leaders over Israel, and judges, as they should have been, caused them to go astray, right? So they imagine like shepherds actually taking out the sheep, but then rather than watching over them, under their watch, you had the sheep going one way, going another way. And they turned them away on the mountains, right? To basically cause them to scatter and be lost. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. So it's like actual sheep that have, that leave their sheepfold, their pen, where they're held. They're taken out, and it's the shepherd's job to watch over them and to lead them in the right path and return them back to their resting place. But in this case, they have now been scattered. Okay, and now they're going from place to place, mountain to hill, different areas, looking for that resting place, but they can't find it. They can't remember their way back. That's why they're lost sheep. And that's why the Lord likens us onto that. Okay, so having been misled by, these false leaders, which are teaching you things that are moving you further and further away from your actual resting place, it was needful that the Lord set up true shepherds to now go and find, right? Go to the lost sheep and gather them back and bring them back to the resting place. And the way that we're doing that is by what? By teaching this word. The word is going to do the gathering and bring them, like Yahushua said, his sheep hears his voice. So when they hear that voice from wherever they're scattered, they'll come to that voice and follow it back to their resting place. all that found them devoured them, right? So imagine sheep that are just scattered, and then you have wolves, you have lions, you have bears that see them. What are they going to do? They're going to devour them, right? And in this case, this was us falling prey, as it says, and their adversaries said, we offend not. Us falling prey to the hands of these heathens. I believe it's in the book of Maccabees that says, what nation hath not had a part, right, in our captivity, right, roughly paraphrasing. So all of them have served themselves of us, these heathen nations, that is, and hold themselves guiltless, saying, we offend not. We're not doing anything wrong, because they're the ones who sinned against their God, right? They have sinned against the Lord Yahweh, the habitation of justice, right? So the dwelling place of their justice, all right, they forsook him. And that's why this is happening. Not really us doing anything bad, right? Even the Lord Yahweh, the hope of their fathers. Remove out of the midst of Babylon and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans and be as the he-goats before the flocks. Now, this starts, mentally and spiritually first, right? Detaching yourself from this place. And this is something that's going to be followed or applied to the remnant, the elect, because they're the ones that are going to detach from this place. Lord willing, we, right, are going to detach or have detached from this place. But to literally go forth out of the land, we're going to be called, okay, to be delivered, to actually physically be delivered and removed and beamed up out of this actual land to escape the destruction. It's not going to be by way of you saying, oh, well, if I know the destruction is coming, I'm going to buy a ticket, and just like fly into another country. It's not what the Lord is saying to do, because where's the faith in that? It says here, and be as the he-goats before the flocks. Now, in the ancient world, the he-goats were like the leaders of the flock, meaning they would guide or lead the flock in what direction. If they went here, the flock would follow them there, right? So this is really more so to the, in applying to the prophets or the teachers, which would be the leaders that the Lord has appointed to lead the flock, right? In separating from this place. So continuing in verse 9, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country. Right now, once again, right, being led by Russia. When you read in Ezekiel 38, it says that Russia and these nations, many people with thee, right, with their bands, meaning their armies. So the Lord is going to raise them up, these nations, as it says, an assembly of great nations from the north country. Now, from where Jeremiah received this message, because technically speaking, Russia is in a northern region, okay? and literally from where Jeremiah would have received this vision, the territory of Russia where we know it to be today would have been north, technically speaking. It says here, and they shall set themselves in array against her, against Babylon. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. So these nations, right, in this war, they're going to have their targets upon this place. Even though it's going to be a war with many nations involved, one of the main targets is going to be Babylon, because that's it's going to be a form of judgment that the Lord has set up. As it says, she shall be taken, right? So she's going to fall. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. So these arrows are not literal bow and arrow, but these arrows are representing the nuclear missiles, all right, the weaponry of these nations. And the Lord says here, it's going to be like the arrows of a mighty expert man. So one that is like well trained, in how to use a bow and arrow, who basically doesn't miss. As it says, none shall return in vain. So these missiles that are shot off, they're going to be guided by the Spirit of the Lord to hit whatever targets he has destined them for. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord. So this place, which Chaldea is another name for Babylon, and Babylon here is talking about America. This spoiling isn't going to be that of a captive, but rather of a destroying. And all they that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord. Right? They're gonna take joy in doing that, even to the point of the allies, the so-called allies, as pertaining to Revelation 17, that are gonna also turn their missiles toward this place, toward Chaldea, or toward Babylon. Verse 11, because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage. And what is the Lord's heritage? His people, right? And also his land. And they destroyed both. and gladly so, right? So because of that, which the land associated with this judgment primarily is Babylon, but the people associated with that is Edom. right? Once again, tying it back to Jeremiah 49. So, um, so as it says here, you gladly basically destroyed the Lord's heritage, because ye are grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls. Now this is comparing, is making the same point, but it's comparing the scenario to being like a happy cow, right? In green pastures, okay, or as a rejoicing bull, basically with like a nice uh, um um damn, I forgot the word I'm looking for here. We'll just go with pasture in front of it. So reading this in the NLT, it says, "You rejoice and are glad, you who plundered my chosen people. You frisk about like a calf in a meadow, or meadow, or meadow, either one, and neigh like a stallion." See? And so the Lord is going to do what? He's going to get recompense. He's going to bring judgment upon you. Your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Now, on the mother, right? In one sense, the land is likened unto the mother of the people, right? And in another sense, here, the land, which is Babylon, is the just as a mother bears children. When you look at the origin of America, it came from Britain, right? Known as the 13 colonies before it eventually formed into what it is today, right? It came from or was the offspring of Britain. Okay, but when it goes into that sore confounded, when you go into the word confounded over there, it means, as it says, to feel shame, right? To be ashamed, to be disappointed. Okay, but a part of that shame is going to be through fear and seeing the destruction the judgment that's going to be coming upon this place, right? So as it says, your mother shall be sore confounded, she that bare you shall be ashamed. At what? At the judgment the Lord is going to bring at this place. So not more so shame in and like, oh, you're a disgrace, which that too, that too. Because believe it or not, the way they look at this place is not the way that this place looks at them. But also in the fear of the judgment that's to come upon this place, that's going to be hitting this place, and also the UK. UK is also going to get judgment, right? Britain is also going to be judged, but not to the severity of Babylon. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, a desert. Now, what this is saying is this place of judgment will be like the hindermost of the nations, and the hindermost meaning like the far end, i.e., least significant. And it's going to be a wilderness, or it's going to be made a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. And how is that going to happen? That's going to be the aftermath of that fire. Because of the wrath of the Lord Yahweh, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. So it's going to be completely desolate. Nobody's going to be, no civilization is going to come and dwell here again. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. Now, wasn't that said about Edom? Okay, in Jeremiah 49. See if we can find that real quick, because that terminology has been used. I mean, it's used quite often, but maybe maybe it was a different place that I'm thinking of. Shall hiss at all her plagues. All right, so yeah, maybe it's a different verse I'm thinking about. But in any case, as we'll keep going, you'll see the parallels between Jeremiah 50 and 49 concerning Edom. Verse 14. So going by Babylon and being astonished, meaning being in awe at the devastation or the aftermath of this destruction. Like when you're driving and you pass by and you see like a major accident, like you don't see you didn't see the crash, but you see the aftermath of it, and the how mangled the car is, and maybe there's blood on the road, and you're like, damn, like, oh shoot. Yeah, that reaction is what people will have seeing the level of devastation that's going to be left after this place is destroyed. Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend the bow, right? So all these nations that the Lord has appointed to fight against Babylon in this war, basically set your targets against her. All ye that bend the bow are those with the capabilities to shoot those missiles, right, with the actual weaponry. Shoot at her. So launch your missiles. Spare no hour. No arrows. Don't reserve any of them. Use them all. For she have sinned against the Lord Yahweh. Right. So this is a judgment from the Lord. Shout against her round about, which is that war cry. She hath given her hand. Right, which means she has surrendered. Her foundations are fallen. Her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh. Take vengeance upon her as she hath done, do unto her. So this visual of Babylon being broken down and being destroyed and taken over is as a result of the vengeance or the wrath of the Lord. Therefore, don't hold back, right, when unleashing that destruction upon this place. Just as this place has been wicked, right, in oppressing the world and committing all these atrocities, unleash that judgment upon her accordingly. Cut off the sword from Babylon and him that handleth the sickle in the time of harvest. Right, because there's not going to be an inhabitant of this land. So sower or reaper, right, which today would be your farmers, are not going to be here anymore. Right, they're either going to be destroyed or those that had a place to be would have fled. For fear of the oppressing sword, they shall turn everyone to his people, and they shall flee everyone to his own land. So those that are mainly those that are like these heathens, especially those that are in the know, they're going to be out of here, right? Seeing that America is a target and getting involved in this war, a lot of them are going to flee back to their own lands. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away, right? Well, now context switching onto the state of Israel, not the state or the condition. That's what I mean by that. To the condition of Israel, right, being like a scattered sheep, which is now vulnerable. The lions here representing the heathens, right, the heathen empires, have driven him away, right, in this sense, meaning like they've, let me pull this up here, right, they have been scattered, right, by lions, because when you look at an actual sheep and it sees a lion or a wolf, what do you think it's going to do? It's going to run, right? So if they were in a pack, they would all disperse and run. Then it goes to elaborate more, right? First, the king of Assyria hath devoured him. And last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath broken his bones, right? So when you look at from the time of Jeremiah, he was aware of the captivity, right, that came upon us by the Assyrians, heavily more so in the northern kingdom, but also partially on the southern kingdom. And also the devastation that came by the Babylonians, right, Nebuchadnezzar and the Neo-Babylonian Empire. That's why he mentions them here as these lions or those that have caused us to be scattered. However, right, in verse 18, therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon in his land, and his land, as I have punished the king of Assyria. Now the Lord did take down the Assyrians, ironically by the hands of the Babylonians, and the Lord also did bring judgment upon Nebuchadnezzar, right, and also eventually brought an end to the reign of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. However, this this punishment, as we are reading and will continue to read, that the Lord was going to bring upon the king of Babylon, is pertinent to the king of mystery Babylon, the king of Babylon the Great, and the future Babylon. Okay, not that of ancient Babylon. So though it was prophesied and worded as such, in application, it was really meant for today. Verse 19, and I will bring Israel again into his habitation. So the Lord, and this is basically the time of salvation, right, where the Lord promises that he will gather Israel, his remnant, and bring them back to the land, Israel. And he shall feed and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan. Now this is likening Israel onto the sheep. Remember the lost sheep? So the Lord is saying, I'm going to gather them and bring them back to their resting place, their habitation. and they're going to get to feed like how your flock eats. They're going to feed on Carmel and Bashan, and these were areas in Israel known for having great pasture. And his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. So this is like a poetic way of saying that I'm going to deliver them, bring them into their land, and they're going to be nourished and satisfied and without want of anything. In those days and in that time, saith the Lord Yahweh, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none. So the Lord is going to completely erase our sins. He's going to wipe it all away and give us a clean slate. And the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them whom I reserve, and that's the remnant, the elect. And the Lord is gonna pardon by cleansing or erasing the sins or the iniquity of his chosen. Go up against the land of Marathaim, which is another name for Babylon, meaning double rebellion, even against it and against the inhabitants of Pekod. Now, when you look up Pekod, it goes into visitation, right? So it's interesting, the inhabitants of the Lord's visitation. But it's also referring to Babylon, right? A people in the Babylonian army and a tribe in the southeast Babylonia bordering Elam. So here it's like the Lord is giving a command to those that are going to be fighting against Babylon, right? As it says, to go against her, right? Even against Babylon, waste and utterly destroy after them. So don't leave, as it says in Malachi, root nor branch, saith the Lord Yahweh, and do according to all that I have commanded thee, which is what? To not spare any arrows, to bring complete devastation upon this place. A sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? So how is it that this place, which is known as this great superpower of a nation, right, that people feared and wondered, how can you even make war with this place? How is it now come down? How is it broken? How is it destroyed? Unbelievable. I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon. And a snare is a trap. So the Lord said, I set a trap for you, and you fell in it, O Babylon. And thou was not aware. You weren't even aware that you were falling in the trap that I set for you. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. So the Lord gave them wisdom. He gave them technology. And with that, and he also gave them dominion for a period of time. And with that, not realizing it was a trap, they became proud and proud and proud and boasted themselves to where now they're striving against the Lord. And in doing so, they're falling in his trap and warranted judgment against themselves. The Lord Yahweh hath opened his his armory and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation. And what are the weapons of his indignation? Those nuclear missiles. So what did it look like when the Lord opened up his armory? Well, how did these missiles come about? By the Lord putting the understanding and the intention of it on the earth in the minds of these rulers, which were led by Edomites, really, at the top, instructing this to be made, to be invented. And lo and behold, now we have them. For this is the work of the Lord Yahweh of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans, right? So he had this come about so he can accomplish the work he has determined for this place. Come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps. So basically cause her to become ruins and destroy her utterly, completely. Let nothing of her be left. So that's why this place is going to be a desert when all is said and done. Slay all her bullocks, let them go down to the slaughter, right? So slay everything, even the animals. Now, also, at the same token, when you read in Jeremiah 30, I think it's Jeremiah, nope, Isaiah. I believe it might be Isaiah, the 34th chapter, if I'm remembering correctly. But it likens the destruction of this place to a sacrifice in which the people are likened onto the animals, right? The bullocks and the rams and so on and so forth. So both the people and the animals are going to be, when it says bring them to the slaughter, it really means they're going to be destroyed. Destroy them with this place. Woe unto them, for their day is come, the time of their visitation, right? The time when the Lord visits this place with judgment. And that's going to be a bad time for them. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon. And who is that? The elect. Okay, they're the ones that the Lord is going to They're the only ones that are going to be able to escape out of this place. Okay. The rest that are preserved, the Lord is going to have them preserved by certain means, i.e., these elites. But those that actually escape this judgment are going to be those of the elect. To what? To declare in Zion the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh, our God, the vengeance of his temple. Because, yeah, the elect are going to witness the vengeance of the Lord, right? They're going to be eyewitnesses um, to be able to see the actual destruction of the Lord Yahweh, the destruction that the Lord Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai is going to bring. Verse 29, call together the archers against Babylon. And who are the archers? The nations, right, who are going to be fighting against this place. All ye that bend the bow, right, with the that have that nuclear capability, that have the weaponry, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. So don't hold anything back, right? Completely destroy this place so nobody escapes. Obviously, this is those that are destined for that destruction. Recompense her according to her work. So just as she's been wicked and oppressed those of the earth, been the hammer of the earth, recompense her or pay her back with his judgment. According to all that she hath done, do unto her. For she hath been proud against the Lord, against the Holy One of Israel. Therefore, therefore, this is her judgment. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, right? Which is going into the inhabitants of the land, but also their armies, right? Their military men. And all her men of war, there you go, shall be cut off in that day, saith the Lord. So both those that are sent over there to the east and those that remain, they're gonna be taken out. Behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith the Lord. And I don't need to explain to you why it is they're considered proud. You can see it. I mean, they have something called Pride Month. But anyway, you can see it in their speech and how they speak against the Lord and the things they promote in this place. They are proud against the Lord Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai of hosts. For thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee. And how is the Lord going to visit them? With destruction in the form of fire. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise. So they're going to go down. This place is going to be destroyed. It's going to go down, and it's not going to rise back up again. Right? So as it says, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, which will be literal, because the Lord will have this place be lit on fire through this destruction, and it shall devour all round about him. So everything in this place is going to be melted. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. And where was that? Here in America, right? Here in Babylon. Yes, in ancient Egypt it happened, but this is long after that time. Okay. And all that took them captives held them fast. Holding them fast means they held strongly onto them to not let them go. Right? As it says, they refused to let them go. Hence, we've been in captivity since we were brought here up until this very day. Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land. So the Lord is going to strive on our behalf intensely. And how is he going to do that? With judgment, right? That he may give rest to the land. For who? For us. And disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. So at the same token, how is the Lord going to give rest to us? And really, not just us and our land, but really the planet. But how is he going to do that? By disquieting the inhabitants of Babylon, by destroying them and this place and this system along with it. So the Lord is going to kill the beast. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith the Lord Yahweh, and that sword is the missiles, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon. So as to where in the ancient world they use, physical swords and spears, this sword that the Lord is calling for is the modern day version of it. People don't go to war today with actual, not these advanced countries. They don't go with like actual swords and spears. They go with weaponry, drones, unmanned drones, ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, ICBMs. Those are the swords that the Lord is referring to here, that is upon the Chaldeans, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. So the people of the land, the governors, the mayors, the politicians, the presidents, all of them. It says here, a sword is upon, and in in most of these nations, they have what they call like their wise men, right? Which are mainly those that derive their wisdom from left hand practices, right? Sorceries and um, the astronomers and astrologers and X, Y, and Z. Well, they're all going to be defenseless in the face of the judgment of the Lord. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote, because they are liars, right, and thieves, and you see that every day in their policies, in the way they've literally set up a system based on lies. But when it says they shall dote, meaning they're going to become foolish, and in the sense that at the face of this judgment, they're gonna be at a loss for instructions on what to do, right? They're gonna, you know how when people become so afraid, they can't think rationally. Okay, so by realizing that there's no way out of this impending destruction, this is gonna be the effect that is gonna have on them. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. Right, and when the mighty men are dismayed, they become weak, they become afraid, they become discouraged. A sword is upon their horses, and upon their chariots, and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her. Right. And today you have what? You have pockets of different, you have Chinese people, Japanese people, you literally have places called Koreatown and new whatever, and it's just all types of people are here. Well, guess what? If they're here when the missiles hit, they're gonna be burnt up with this place. And the modern day horses, right, going into like your means of your vehicles, right, your cars, buses, trains, everything, and actual horses, right, and actual chariots, because they still have those, when you go like downtown and so on. And they shall become as women, meaning they're gonna become afraid and weak. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. A drought, so they're all their riches that they had acquired, it's going to be given up, and this is really more so directed at their at the elites. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up, for it is a land of graven images. And in Isaiah 19 goes into that as well, about the drought, right? And the I believe it's also in Second Esdras where it mentions that for 3 hours they shall not run, right? So you're gonna have actual droughts as well, as it's like I mentioned, it's also in Isaiah 19, which that's also about America. And they shall be dried up, for it is the land of graven images, right? It's a land heavily into idolatry. That's what the graven images are. They're idols, and they are mad upon their idols. They boast in their idols. They're infatuated. That's why over here, every 2 seconds, it's some paganistic celebration or ritual being conducted that they get so immersed into, as they call it. Like now we're coming up into the time of what they'll call the holiday spirit. Oh, a lot of people are not really in that spirit now, as calamity is coming upon them, but you get the point, right? This is a land full of heavy idolatry. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the island shall dwell there. So once this place is destroyed and the fire burns out and it's just a complete desert, the only creatures that will be here are the desert creatures. And the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever. So it's not going to be a place where people come and start a civilization and build it back up. That's not going to happen. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord Yahweh, so shall no man abide there. Right? So just like Sodom and Gomorrah was known for their wickedness and their neighboring cities, and the Lord overthrew it with fire and brimstone, he's going to do the same to this place. So shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell there. So nobody's going to dwell in this place after it's destroyed. Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. And these are the nations that the Lord is going to raise up to fight against this place. Russia, China, Iran, Turkey, North Korea, all these nations. They shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel, and these are the weapons of war. They're military weapons, and they are cruel, meaning they're going to be merciless when they engage with this place, and will not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array. And this is their, once again, their military. They're not military men in troop in uniform are not going to be riding on physical horses, right? But in the ancient world, horses were also vehicles of war. Today, you have more of your fighter jets and your drones and so on and so forth, which that's what they're going to be using, right? And their submarines and so on. Every one put in array like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon. So their target, their main target, which is even one of the reasons why they unite, is Babylon. It's coming against Babylon, the common enemy. The king of Babylon hath heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Meaning, by hearing this report, and not just a report of, oh, like this country is testing their missiles or this country is doing that. In fact, actually, recently you had Trump, which is the current king of Babylon, order the testing of U.S. nuclear missiles immediately in response to that of the other nations. Why do you think he did that? But we're not just talking about like a light report. We're talking about reports of like, if they were to hear something like, oh, Russia is amassing, military weapons on, in Venezuela, for example, right? Just throwing that out there. Or they're getting ready to launch missiles, or we just detected their submarines off the coast and they got missiles on them and they're about to launch. That's the kind of report that puts instant fear in you, right? Your heart drops to your ass. And as it says, so by hearing these kinds of reports, as the war gets intensified, as it says, the king of Babylon waxed feeble, anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail, because he's going to be in fear. Because that's why they call it MAD, mutually assured destruction. And when that's evident before your face, realizing that, this is really about to be the end of you and your kingdom, that's going to be a fearful thing to behold. Verse 44, behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan. Now, 44 down to 46, this is like a parallel to Jeremiah 49. The same kind of judgment that was mentioned against Esau or Edom, right? I'm going to just pull it up here, Jeremiah 49 and and verse 19. It's literally like the same thing. But Jeremiah 50 and 44, behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan onto the habitation of the strong. So where's the habitation of the strong? This is going to be Babylon, right? And the he that the Lord is going to send up to do this is Yahushai. But I will make them suddenly run away from her, right? That they're gonna be suddenly afraid and try to flee. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me, and who will appoint me the time, right? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? So I'm going to pull this up in another translation as well, as I think it makes it a bit clearer, how the Lord is speaking here, right? So in the NLT, it says, I will chase Babylon from its land, and I will appoint the leader of my choice. For who is like me, and who can challenge me? What ruler can oppose my will? See, so the Lord, like we went into in Jeremiah 49, is boasting in the fact that, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring this judgment, right? And I'm going to set up who I want over them. And there's nobody that's going to be able to stop me or challenge me. Who can withstand me? I think even in the NKJV, it says that. Who will arraign me? Who is that shepherd who will withstand me? Right? Because when it says shepherd here, it's just a term for like a president or a king is likened unto the shepherd of his people. All right. So here is like a ruler or one in that kind of stead. Verse 45, therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, that he hath taken against Babylon, and his purposes, that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. Right. And the least of the flock, as we know here, is Amalek, right? A tribe of the nation of Edom. And through their actions, they're going to cause that drawing in of the nations to that region, right? As as the Lord refers to it as the Yahweh Shabbat. And as it says, he shall make their habitation desolate with them. So as a result of their actions, of their provocation in the region, it's going to lead to the destruction and the devastation of both their land and also in Babylon, which is their close ally. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, because what's going to be the taking of Babylon, the destruction of this place? How is it going to be happening? By missiles hitting this place, and also the chariots of the Lord destroying this place. But you're going to have earthquakes, tsunamis. The earth is going to be moving to and fro. It says, and the cry is heard among the nations, right? So because this is going to be, it's going to be heard and broadcasted all over. So everybody's going to know about it. And like I said, it's the same thing here in Jeremiah 49. So with that, I'm going to end it here. All right, that's the end of Jeremiah, the 50th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rechak Wadash. Until next time, Shalom.